All right, everyone. So thank you all for coming to today's meeting. Now, before we begin, did any of you have anything that you'd like to share? No? Okay, great. So I just wanted to get together with you all to review this past quarter's performance. Now, first things first, I just wanted to say that I know that you have all been working so hard for this company of mine, and I just wanted to congratulate each and every one of you. You know, I remember way back when we started this team, it was just me and Jeff. You know, me and Jeff. Jeff, that crazy guy, Jeff. Stacy, are you falling asleep? Fine, everyone. Let's just look at the results. Jeff, can I grab those from you? Let's see what we got here. Oh my. This is good. This is very good. So first of all today, I just want to say that my hair is getting quite long and I'm starting to kind of look like that aliens guy. But today we're not talking about aliens, we're talking about money. And today's video is going to be a little bit different. I wanted to kind of just have a video where I just kind of riffed on the topic of money, where I just kind of talk to you guys about it. It's going to be a lot less edited, so let me know in the comments what you thought, if you loved it, if you hated it. Either way, I want to know. This might be the perfect one to just put your headphones in and just listen to it. You don't even have to look at my face for this one, because I just wanted to talk about 3 ways that you can think about money to improve your relationship with it and hopefully allow you to actually make more money. Now, these 3 ways were extremely important for me to internalize to get a good grasp on money. And early on, I really struggled with some of these ideas, but once I really got them down pat, it completely opened new doors for me when it came to my finances. So let's get started with number 1. The first idea is that every dollar is a little worker. And here's what I mean by that. To the untrained eye, a simple dollar coin or dollar bill, depending on where you're from, can just look like just that, just a simple piece of paper or a simple coin that can't buy you much outside of the dollar store. But really, this single piece of paper or this coin actually has so much potential. And that's because it can actually act as a little worker. A worker in a global workforce that has the power to multiply into more workers. And what I mean by that is every single dollar has the potential to become another dollar and another dollar and another dollar. But in order for that to happen, you have to create the right work environment for this dollar to work for you in. And that means putting it onto an intelligent task, like assigning it to an investment or to pay down debt or things like that, where you're going to use the power of money to create more money. And what we don't want to do is we don't want to buy things that we don't need. Because here's what happens with that. When we buy something that we don't need, we're effectively giving away these little workers. And they're going to go and work for someone else and be a part of their workforce. But what we want to do is we want to collect these workers. We want to get paid from our jobs, from our gigs, whatever it is. We want to get paid money. And then we want to keep this money. We want to save it. And when we save it, that means that we're actually saving these little workers. And when we do that, we build our potential workforce. And then once we have a workforce, we can then assign those workers. We can say, hey, I want you to be invested for me. I want you to pay down this debt. And when we do that, when we get our workforce to work for us, that's when our workforce actually grows. That's when our money becomes more money. So that's essentially the blueprint to wealth in a nutshell. You collect money, you save the money, and then you assign it onto an intelligent task like an investment to increase your net worth. And this is how the rich get richer. This is exactly how money becomes more money. This is exactly how you harness the power of compound interest. And seeing money in this way really makes it fun. It makes it fun to collect money because you know that you're collecting these little workers and that they're going to become a part of your workforce. And then once you have a large workforce, once you have thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of dollars, you know that that's all your workers who are working for you. And the more workers you have, or the more dollars you have, the faster your money will actually grow too. So at the beginning, it might be a bit slow, It might be a bit slow to get going. You might not notice tremendous growth. But if you're patient and you're disciplined with it, over time, that growth is going to snowball and it's going to compound and it's going to grow at a rate that you can't even imagine. So really try and internalize that. Try and think about it, if you're going to your job or if you're going to a gig or whatever it is that you do to make money. Once you actually receive a paycheck, don't just look at that and think of the things that you could spend it on, or don't even just look at it as simply money or just dollar signs. Look at that as little workers. And then you know that you want to conserve those. You want to add them to your workforce. And then after you do that, you're going to want to invest that money. And that's something that I'm going to talk a lot about in future videos. I'll make several videos on investing, but for now, just try and really internalize that concept so that you are more prone to collecting money as opposed to spending it, especially on things that you don't need. So build your workforce. And the other great thing about building your workforce is that after a certain point, your money can literally work for you. You don't have to work yourself anymore. And that's kind of the whole point, is that once you build a big enough workforce, your money can actually cover your expenses. At this point, you're financially independent. And this isn't to say that you don't have to work anymore in terms of you have to retire. You can still work, you can still pursue your passions, you can do the things that you love. But the point is that you aren't required to. There's no one forcing you to do it anymore because you don't need the money anymore. Your workforce is working for you, so you don't have to do the work. You can if you want to, and I think a lot of people who are driven, who are successful, they're going to still continue to do the work that they want to do, but not the work that they have to do. And that's because they see money in this way. And that's what I want you to do too. Now, the second idea is that money buys time. At least sort of. If you watched my video called What is Money, you learned that money trades for value. It allows people to exchange one thing for another, and that's essentially trading value from one hand to another. And money makes this extremely easy and extremely efficient. But you might have been wondering after watching that video, then what actually is value? Now, if you looked into a textbook or you Googled the definition, it might be something like relative worth, utility, or importance. And that's like saying, what I think is important, is valuable to me, or what I think has a high relative worth to other things is more valuable to me. But that's a bit subjective because we're just incorporating my opinion in this. To get a clearer picture of what value actually is, or the value of something actually is, we'd want to incorporate as many people's opinions as possible. So that way we could get a clearer picture of how valuable an item actually is in society. But that's also just based off of opinions. Is there a more concrete, kind of anchored definition to what value actually is? Is it just what we think something is worth? Well, I would argue that there is kind of a deeper root to value. And I would say a lot of that has to do with the aspect of time. And what I mean by that is the time involved in something to be created. Whether it's a good, whether it's a service, behind that good or service, there was time that was put into it to allow it to be created. And to take that a step further, I would say that any good or service in society that's been created, let's just say bread, for example. To create bread, somebody has to, combine some flour, some water, some yeast, maybe a bit of salt together, mix it up, let it sit, and then bake that bread. So that obviously requires time, but it also requires a different component here, and that's a skill. Somebody has to apply a skill over a period of time to complete a task that's ultimately going to result in either a good or a service. But what is skill and how is skill created? Well, skill also kind of has at its root time too. Because while someone can be naturally gifted in something from birth, usually we have to practice a skill over a period of time to really hone it and master it. So time here is kind of at the root of all of it. So if we know that money trades for value, and value has time at the root of it, then we can kind of make the conclusion that money can actually trade for time. And this is a really important concept to grasp, because if money can buy time in a certain manner of speaking, that means that the more money we have, the more time we can buy. Or in other words, the more of other people's time we can buy, so that we don't have to spend our own time doing something. And that's why you'll hear, wealthy people or successful people say time is money. And that's because they see this comparison. They understand the relationship between time and money. I mean, if you work an hourly job, you know that you get paid per hour. There is a very tight relationship between time and money. So we want to grow the amount of money that we have so that we can have more of our time, and that we can effectively buy time. You see, when somebody becomes financially independent, that means that they're free to do what they want with their time. And they're free to do what they want with their time because they have enough money to pay for that time. They have enough money to pay for the time behind all the things they need, the groceries they need, the car they need, the house they need, whatever it is they need. They have enough money to pay for the time behind that thing. Because if you didn't have money at all, you yourself would either have to spend all of your time creating, farming for those groceries. You'd have to build yourself a house. Like, all of this stuff requires time, obviously, or you'd have to get somebody else to do it and somehow give them an incentive to do it. But with money, we can directly buy this inherent time behind what we're talking about here. So ultimately, the more money we have, the more time we can also free up for ourselves to do what we want to do with that time. Now, this is one of the biggest motivations for me to become financially independent, because my time is extremely valuable to me, and I hate having to do things that someone else requires me to do. I want to have full control over my life and my time. And the easiest way to do that is to put yourself in a position where you're financially independent. So try and internalize this idea too as you're going about your day. Think about how much money you're making at your job or at your gig or whatever it is, and how much time was put behind that. Try and think about the time behind any good or service that you're purchasing and how your money is trading for that time. All of these things will kind of begin to seep into your brain and make you understand the bigger picture of what exactly you can do once you have enough money to be financially independent and buy as much time as you want. Now, the third and final idea is one that I struggled with quite a bit in my early days, and that's the concept of whether money is good or evil. When I was younger, I viewed money as a bad thing. I viewed it as a source of corruption and greed in the world, and I really didn't want to be somebody who had a lot of money or required a lot of money. I thought I could be self-sufficient without it, and I thought that I'd be a better person because of it. But as I started to learn more about money, I realized that it's just an inanimate object. Money itself is not good or evil. It's neutral. It's just an enabler of us, of our own human nature. And a lot of the times, our human nature can be expressed in negative ways. Greed and corruption can certainly come about any time that humans are involved. But that's because we're fallible creatures. We're not perfect. And money enables us to do things with it, both good and bad. It's essentially just like our hands. Our hands can complete a wide variety of different actions, both good and bad. But does that mean that hands are bad? Well, no, obviously not. Hands are neutral. It's all about the person who has those hands and how they're operating them. I can bake bread with my hands, and I love to bake bread with my hands, and I would think that that's primarily a good thing. And on the other side of the coin, a terrible person can do terrible things with their hands. But at the end of the day, they're still neutral. So it's all about how we act. It's all about our behavior. So if you're somebody who's, pursuing financial independence, pursuing wealth, then I would very much encourage you to be conscious of how you act with your money, because it definitely does have consequences, and big consequences if you're using large amounts of money. But at the end of the day, this is all about, like I said, how we act, who we are, what type of person we are. It's not about money itself. If you're somebody who wants to do good things for the world, if you want to serve some kind of purpose or a good cause, having more money actually makes this easier. You can make larger donations. You can start foundations. You can get involved in more things. So having more money and being a good person can amplify that. It can actually allow you to accomplish greater things. But also having more money and being a bad person can amplify that as well too. But I think it's important that we allow humans to make mistakes and allow us to make decisions. We need to have, I think, a high degree of free will to allow us to, figure out right from wrong. We need to make the mistakes and learn from them. If we try and confine things too much by painting a black and white picture like money is evil, then we're going to define things way too rigidly and not allow us to actually grow and to learn and to become better as a person and better as a society in regards to money and wealth. And while there are huge wealth gaps in the world and massive wealth disparity, and you could even argue that wealth is used in some situations to oppress certain groups of people, we should be pointing our finger at those people doing the wrong actions. We shouldn't be pointing our finger at money itself. Instead, I think that we should be trying to refine our values as a society and as a person. And I think that sometimes starts at the individual level. So I would really, really encourage you that if you're getting really serious about money, also get really serious about who you are, about your character, about your values. Really define those and understand what it is that you want this money for, what it is that you're pursuing, what your end goals are. Be really clear about them and really conscious of them, because I think that if more people did that, we'd run into a lot less problems involving money. And so with that all being said, I think that wraps up today's video. Now, again, this was just a kind of really unedited video, just me talking about my ideas here on different aspects of money and how I think that you can incorporate them into your life to hopefully improve your relationship with money. So yeah, definitely let me know what you thought of this one. Both, honestly, if you liked it or if you didn't like it, if you prefer the other style of videos, or if you like them both, if you'd kind of like a mix of this video and my other style of videos. I really enjoy making videos in general. I enjoy making both styles, so let me know what you think. And if you got some value out of this video, please consider hitting the like button, and if you're not subscribed to the channel, definitely subscribe, because we're just getting started and I've got a lot more coming out soon. So yeah, with that being said, I would just like to thank you for listening to my ideas today, and I really hope they help you out, and I will see you again soon.